Welcome to the Steve Fox Show, where it's you and the law. We have the grand opportunity to ask some legal questions. But tonight we have two very special guests. Not people you can ask legal questions of, but people who make the laws. Your representatives. First, I'd like to thank and welcome Mayor Frank Roberts.
Steve.
And second, I'd like to thank City Councilman Reverend Herns.
Vice Mayor.
Vice Mayor.
Absolutely.
I want to start out by pointing out that I endorse both of you. And,
Fabulous. Thank you.
And I'm very proud of the job you've done in Lancaster.
Oh, appreciate that.
And I just want to say, keep the progress going. Now, I know both of you have done a lot of progress, and you have a lot more positive things you're planning. Perhaps you might want to share some of the goals or some of the things you're working on.
I guess our statement is continue the progress, isn't it?
Yes.
Although I'm not sure whether my signs say that on that, but that's the way I feel, that we've been the leaders of progress, I think. And I think we're going to continue to do that.
Well, I hope so. I know you did a lot of planning in previous years where you bought, the city bought a great deal of land, and then when you needed it, it was there. So I know you've done some long-range planning that has come in very handy.
I think the big one, Mayor Roberts may want to comment on that, but I think the big one was the Fox Field area. I think that's the corridor.
Any relation to me? No.
Steve Fox, sure, it's all your land, Fox. We bought it from you, Steve. No.
I should be. So tell us about Fox Field then. What did you...
Well, it's the corridor, and we condition it so that when things like Rite Aid, Michael's would come to us needing like a 1 million square foot building and above, that we could be able to assemble that land and be able to go ahead and do what we need to do.
That's where the long-term planning came in. And that's where it ended up translating into jobs.
That's correct.
And I got to tell you, I commuted. I had my freeway therapy for 10 years, and I'm so glad that you're getting jobs. You're bringing jobs up here, so a lot of us don't have to commute anymore. So I want to thank you on behalf of the commuters for that.
I think that's one of our main missions, to generate jobs here that are median in pay and have health benefits, so they're good quality jobs to get the people off the freeway.
And when you bring jobs up here, it means more people are making money here, and they're spending the money here in the valley.
And more importantly than that, go ahead. More importantly than that, they have a quality of life issue. If they're not driving that free, they're home with their family and their kids. They're home doing things in the valley that make this valley
time.
It's the time.
You can't put a price tag on time with your children.
That's right.
One of the things that I stuck up on my signs is preparing tomorrow, today.
It's a good comment.
Preparing tomorrow, today. In other words, if we, as the mayor just said, are able to get these people off of the freeway, they spend, first of all, it puts them with their family.
That's right.
It helps us environmentally to keep the air clean.
Yep.
But it also gives them the time with their children, so that when their children get here and get that nurturing that they need from their parent, they're going to be able to do better things in our community.
I guess it's like when I was a school teacher, we did things in the classroom, but we didn't see the immediate results, but we knew there were long-term positive results. And that's exactly what the two of you have been doing.
We've been trying.
Now, what are some of the other issues, water or safety, or what are some of the other things that you're going forward on?
Well, in any political campaign, there's a kind of a list by priority, and of course the top of the list is always public safety.
Absolutely, without
always public safety. But you know, and Henry has alluded to it, and I have too, public safety comes with quality of life. So I'm beginning to see that public safety and quality of life are so inextricably linked that it's hard to talk about one without the other. Of course, with public safety, you have to have the professionals, and we hire the best. Lee Baca is our leader in Los Angeles County, and Captain Pickett up here, they're the greatest. Our city pays money that we get from sales tax dollars, by the way, to keep that the best possible law enforcement arm.
So by getting sheriffs from the county, we get more bang for our dollar.
Absolutely.
We can use their equipment, and we have connection to all their abilities.
We couldn't afford to have the kind of sheriff's protection and the sheriff's station and all the things we have if we tried to do it on our own.
No, it just wouldn't happen.
There's a proposition on the ballot to get more sheriffs. Either of you want to comment on that?
I didn't see that particular one. I suppose when we vote, we'll see that particular one. I did notice they're trying to limit the time that Sheriff Lee Baca can be in office. They've got a term limiting thing for the sheriffs and for the supervisors, and what was the other one? Not judges, but there's 3 items on that ballot I was looking at.
Yeah.
And it limits time in office. There's
Luckily,
some positives and negatives about that. We'll see
that's
how
a
it goes.
double-edged sword.
Yeah, it sure is. It
But
really is.
again, that's not one of my. I have my own opinions because the experience versus you want new blood is kind of a toss-up. But again, that's not, I guess, one of the issues we have to worry about, at least for our campaigns.
That's
you know,
true.
I
Yet.
really believe that if we don't take advantage of the time that good people spend in office, we are missing the boat. You take a guy like Lee Walker, the guy really has it together. His whole emphasis is all about the whole Los Angeles County. And he doesn't leave us out because we're up on the north end of it.
No.
He's right here, he's in the parades, he comes up for small stuff like Boy Scouts. I had a Boy Scout meeting at my church.
Yeah.
Right there, and sat
And
there for 4 hours.
If you want him, he comes. And he's
So-
here in a matter of hours.
So I'm just saying
That's
that
great.
we need to take advantage of people who
Yeah.
has the experience and the love for the community. And I know Frank can speak for himself, but I know that the two of us do have that love for our community. And it's not something we do for money because that's a whole
You get
nother.
5 cents an hour for all the hours you're putting in.
I
Right.
need
So
to
it can't be for the
calculate
money.
it. Don't make me feel bad by trying to calculate it, but Henry and I are there all the time, everywhere all the time. We live the city of Lancaster.
Absolutely.
So that's the way it should
You
be.
live, eat, and breathe it. A lot of us are appreciative of the time you put in.
And you know, I'm finding it out that a lot of people in our community are telling me, you know, to really, we want you back. And I've been reaching a point to where I say I want to quit. But then every time I get to a point to do that, I see another,
A lot of us won't let him quit.
well, this is a lot of
There were a
things
lot
that
of
really
pressures
need to be
on.
done, that we need a good team to do it.
Yeah,
And
we
I
do.
know that Frank, myself, and the rest of the team that we have on board, we can make things happen for the best of our community.
Well, it's been the best team that we've had during my tenure in office.
Certainly has
I'd
been.
say that what we have going right now as the council and me as the mayor, we work together. If there's any aberration or any concern, we talk about it and work it out, legally, of course, under the Brown Act laws. But we usually come out with a fairly decent decision. And
Well, I think-
the point is, if people don't like this, they need to tell us. We have
But
telephones
I like
right
your
now.
open
Somebody
door
should be phoning
policy.
in, right?
And that brings up a point. If someone has a question, feel free to call in at 726-0382. That's 726-0382. And you can speak with Mayor Frank Roberts and Vice Mayor Reverend Herns.
Now, I really feel strong about our team, and one of the things I feel like is exceptional. When we have a difference, it doesn't interfere with our personal relationship
Absolutely correct.
So reasonable minds
Yeah.
can differ.
That,
on the issue,
yeah.
and vote the way we feel like we ought to vote,
And then you all
and
come
get up
back
from the
together.
table. Oh,
We
absolutely.
walk away from the table, no matter how we voted, we're all friends and we all talk about the next item.
Absolutely.
Because once the decision's been made, it's a city decision, it's a council decision, not to be held against any one of us as an individual vote giver. And that's the way it works. And it's worked beautifully for the last couple of years, actually the last
Absolutely.
4 years.
It really has.
4 years has been great.
It really
Actually,
has.
more than, I guess, 8 years? How long have we had our team together? 8 years? 2 full terms?
Shoot, I've been about 8 years.
Yeah, about 8 years. Yeah.
A really fine group of men.
That's
and
about how long the city's been running real well.
Hey, Steve, we love you. He's our man.
women. Absolutely, no question about that.
We like to think that.
What are some? I know there's some recycling and some other issues you mentioned when I was listening before.
Oh, the water. We were talking about the water and the utilization of water and the fact that certain agencies like SCAG are predicting that we'll be 1.4 million in population. Of course, that's the whole valley region. But when that happens, we do have to worry about the water that we now import in the big ditch, the MWD, and what we get out of the ground from the aquifers. So I think Henry shares the opinion with me that we're going to have to stop dumping the water onto the dry lake in Roseman, this water that's just going out there on the lake for a couple of reasons. One's military related, and the other is because we need to recycle it and use it to water things and to make the freeway beautiful and all those things.
You bet. Being an oil environmental engineer and out at Edwards for almost 30 years out at Edwards, I'm now seeing some of the things happen that I had hoped would have happened many, many years ago. And that is, Edwards now is doing a secondary treatment and taking that water and using it to water golf courses and grass and other things
Yes,
like
indeed.
that. So we need to do that, and our city is well and behind that.
Yeah.
Another thing that we just got an award for, and that's clean air.
Yes.
You know, we are working for the long-term effects on our environment and caring for our natural resources, which is water.
And if you didn't take care of the water, our prices would probably go up. So you're also looking in our pocketbook for us.
Probably, although, you know, the word is out that it costs money to recycle. But on the other hand, the other alternative is not have adequate water for the kind of things we like median strips and like freeway beautification. So it may be that water will increase in cost as we get more population, but that's the nature. All of Los Angeles County will have that same kind of problem. So we won't be alone. But that's what you elect leaders for. Henry is environmental engineer, and I'm an engineer by profession and registration. We're worried about trying to do things right. Engineers have an interesting way of looking at things. We try to pick out what's ideal, and then we design to it. Well, ideally, we ought to have all the water we can get, and it ought to be free. But let's face it, Henry, ain't going to happen. Is it? No, ain't going to happen. So if we can get all the water we need and recycle the water we have and maintain the environmental thing that we're trying to establish, that is a good balance, that's the best we can do, and that's what we're trying to do.
And with that, we'll go ahead, Henry.
I'm just going to mention the fact that, you know, in addition to all these things that we're doing for the environment and water and all the other things, we're really doing everything that we can do to make our city friendly to businesses, both small business, large businesses, whatever. We are looking for businesses, and the only way you can do that is to make the valley, our city, to say not only embrace, but to welcome businesses.
To align the incentives where it helps us to have them here, jobs, funds, and they also get tax breaks and some discounts on different areas. So a win-win. I like that. And with that, we'll go to a break. Welcome back to the Steve Fox Show, where it's you and the law. But tonight we have two lawmakers, and I invite you to ask them a question if you like at 726-0382. You can call in. That's 726-0382. First, I want to invite you. You can even call them on their own territory at City Hall.
That's right.
Mayor Roberts, could you give the phone number of City Hall for us?
723-6018.
And Vice Mayor?
723-6007.
So if not just tonight, if you just want to watch
Anytime,
tonight, they have an open door policy.
You bet.
And they're very serious about it, and they've shown that with a pattern in the last few years where anybody with a problem, no matter how small or how large, can go to Frank Roberts or Henry Herns, and they always have an open ear and a welcome hand.
And we call you back. Sometimes we have trouble getting back right away because we're doing so many other things, but your calls are very important, so feel free to call.
Absolutely.
Oh, we also have a website.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, let's see, mine is froberts@qnet.com. All lowercase, froberts@qnet.com. And I probably get 25 or 30 calls or emails a day.
Really?
Yeah. And I answer them.
That's a pretty good access.
Or I forward them. If it's a question about somebody getting a ticket for parking where a trash truck driving or whatever, then I'll forward that to somebody that can answer their question, and then if that doesn't get answered, we'll treat it later.
Let me ask you some of the hard question. How large is our city budget, and what are the main sections of it?
Well, I saw an early printout. Did you see that printout? It looks like $129,000, $129 million. Yeah.
Right.
But just the problem with talking about the budget, Steve, is that it has redevelopment funds. It has funds that shift back and forth. But I believe we're about $130 million.
That's about $130 million.
It's a good-sized budget. What are the main programs you've outlined in there in that budget?
Well, the mid-season, the mid-budget just went through, and I don't think we've modified much.
I don't think we've modified
We
much
pretty much
from
stayed.
where we were. And of course, a big hunk of that is
It's probably salaries and whatnot.
well, not just salaries only, but we're talking about parks and things for our community. You know, we do have to feed a few bucks into the baseball stadium, but it's
And thank you, by the way. I like that stadium. I like the large hot dogs and the baseball
Pleased
teams.
that you do.
We're pleased with that.
Yeah, that was-
Then you know, the Lancaster Performing Arts Theater. We are doing things to
That's
bring
another one I
families
like too.
to bring families together.
That's right.
So all of that is a part of the budget. Of course, the street sweeping and all of the
All
cleaning
that has to
things that
happen.
we have to do.
But that's what cities are for.
That's what the
Cities
dollars
do that.
are all for.
I always don't you always get amazed when somebody says, "Well, you're spending our tax dollars." That's all we ever have. You don't have anything but tax dollars. So what you do, you get your elected officials to make certain that the tax dollars are spent as efficiently as they can
Absolutely.
be, and there's no boondoggles or any other kind of aberration.
And the top of the list is public safety.
Absolutely, number
We
one.
spent a
public safety.
big dollar package on public safety.
Do you know how many sheriffs we hire from our budget? Ballpark.
I'd
You know,
say-
I knew that, but I don't know
I
now.
would say like 80 or so.
That's a good shot.
Probably. I was trying to think of the number of cars that we have. It seems like there's 17 dedicated and
Right.
12 others.
It's about
But
80 plus.
We put on what we have to put on, and then we rely upon Sheriff Baca and his wisdom through our captain here to keep us safe.
And then in addition to just the regular shad, we got the special
Right.
group, what we call a top bomb. And
Yeah.
these people, they don't answer to regular 911 calls or anything like that. They do nothing but stay on special stuff. So public safety is a number one. Another big ticket item is, of course, our parks and recreation. And, of course, the next and bigger one, in my opinion, is the public works. All
Oh,
of the
yeah.
streets
You have
and
to keep the potholes fixed, and
That's
you have
correct.
to keep the roads in decent shape. And you have to worry about the trees. Every so often a tree infracts on the lawn, pulls up a piece of the pavement or a piece of the walkway, and somebody trips over it, so we have to watch that too. We have all those things to watch.
Well, it's good business for attorneys, but
Public. Oh, that's right. Well, what do you know?
I look out for the city too whenever I can. And I think a lot of us do our best we can not to sue the city, because when we do, the tax dollars, instead of going for public usage, go for other things. So, and I think you guys are doing a good job. In fact, I can't think of anybody who ever complains. In fact, they usually compare our Lancaster to the other cities and ask the other cities, why aren't you as good as Lancaster?
and you know,
It's nice to hear that.
Steve, there's another thing that is a saying that has gone on for many years, is that a person who brings good people around them are known as good managers. And our council has been wise enough to keep an excellent city manager with us. Even though there's been a lot of people who kick up against him, but the
Yeah.
city manager and staff, they're the best you can find. There's no question about
Let me
that.
go one step further and compliment you on your CFO, Gary Hill, who also serves on the hospital board with me.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's a great guy.
So, and thank you for lending him to us on the hospital.
He's a
He's a
wonderful
great
guy.
money handler and a budgeteer. He knows what he's doing.
Yes, he
keeps
does.
us
He's not
straight.
afraid to tell you no or yes.
Yeah, you don't do that. Don't spend that. By the way, you were making the statement that we're lawmakers. You know, we make municipal codes, but as far as the law, I suppose what we do and what we enact by resolution or whatever could be construed to be a law, but generally they're municipal codes that demand people to do right things, demand them to park in the right places, and make sure that they're, the street is open when the street sweeper goes down for the best possible cleaning of the streets. I don't think we don't have a harsh bone in our body, do we, for
Not
making
at all.
laws?
No. All of our policies, as best we can tell, is for the good of the people.
Right.
You know,
Every last one of them.
Justice Learned in Hand said, "My rights end at the end of my fist and the beginning of your nose." And what he meant is that we all have limited rights as long as they don't infringe on somebody else.
Absolutely.
So I think what you're saying is you're looking out for everybody.
Exactly.
It's almost like the golden rule. Be sure you do unto others as you want them to do unto you, and I think that's the way our council behaves.
And and this is what makes it so good when you have 5 people on a council who really have the love of the city, and I think
That's what we have.
that's where the good council people begin and end. Do you love your city? Money is not there, but do you really love your city? Do you really want that city to be the best it can be for your children, for your grandchildren, and on out?
That's what it's about.
And our council is into that.
That's what it's about.
Sounds like a grand partnership between the city, private industry, and the public, all working
Right.
together.
Well, we believe in the team approach. There's no question about that. When we get law enforcement, we get the schools, even though we don't tell the people how to run the school, but we join up with them, and whenever there's monies coming through the redevelopment or anywhere else that we can put toward school, we're right there to do that. When developers come in, we make sure that allotments are made for schools to be
Right.
built. And yeah, when all of us come together as a team, it can happen good, and we believe in our city it does happen.
And I believe
good.
that's what's happening now, and we want to keep it that
I also
way.
see some long-term planning where you don't just let sporadic growth take place.
That is
It's more of a planned thing that is better for the environment of the residents.
That's the general plan. As a matter of fact, we just opened an overpass, the Avenue L, or what was it, the Avenue H
Avenue H.
overpass.
That's right.
That completed our peripheral loop. That peripheral loop was planned, well, you were
Oh,
here
yeah.
during that first planning session.
I
Must
was-
have been 15 years ago.
Absolutely, but the other thing too, Frank, out at Edwards Air Force Base, we started talking about this good 25
Oh,
years
yeah,
ago,
right.
talking about how in the world we're going to get everything tied together, and so now we have those two main crossings available to us.
That's right.
Now, you're strategically setting the city up for future growth.
Absolutely.
What are some of the things you're doing? I know we're growing
Growth
by
is
leaps
a
and bounds.
tough word. Let's call it managed organizational
Okay.
increases of population supported by the kinds of infrastructure that are necessary so we don't lose the quality of life. You
I
know,
like that.
you and I have watched growth occur in the San Fernando Valley. I know that you know about the Pacoimas and the Van Nuys and so on, where I serve as the Metropolitan Transit Authority Director. Those places were not highly organized. They were not well thought out. And the city of Lancaster, thanks to Henry's early work on the general
Yeah.
plan and my perseverance, and George Runner was in there for a while, we have a general plan that I believe is second to none in terms
I
of
know so,
controlling
Frank, and
that growth.
and I can't even think of the name of the thing that we put together.
Oh, the one that it pays more when you're further out?
Yes.
What
can't
is
think
that?
of- In other words, what we've done with the city, if people want to build way out on the west side or way out on the east side, we can allow that
You bet.
within some constraint.
Mhm.
In other words, if you build out there, you got to have your public safety, you got to have your fire departments and all that. So any developer wants to go way out there, he has to put that together.
That's right.
And
That's a
has to
part of the
take
plan.
streets and all.
So you're getting the
Part of the plan.
developers in return for letting them develop in the area to add some more to the public infrastructure. So you're getting them
That's
to
right.
help our community.
If they want to build way out there, yes. If they want to build on the inside, then of course they follow the laws.
The regular
that we,
regulations, yeah.
and what we really hope is that they will build from the core and then and the build out.
Trying to prevent urban sprawl and the
Absolutely.
lack of the planning that just would cause our city to just explode and not be well organized or well structured. Everybody on that council right now has that as one of their main goals.
I just it's really an enjoyable thing to work in on the council now, because we know that every meeting, not only does the staff put it together, but every five of us has in our hearts, what can we do with this agenda that it will accommodate and make this city better for the overall 132,000 people
Quite a
who live
few.
here.
We're about to go to our break. Henry, do you have any last words? I know you have another important meeting. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I appreciate it. I'm supporting you. Is there anything last words you'd like to give the
I
public?
guess the only thing I would like to say, Steve, is that I'm thankful and I really appreciate the community for allowing me to be a servant in my community. And so I would say to the community, I have visions to make way out yonder for our younger people that's coming on a better city. And I want to do that by joining forces with Frank Roberts and the other two is on, and hopefully we'll get a third party in there, another person that will love our city. I love my city.
I want to thank you,
And
Reverend.
Henry Herns is the greatest vice mayor. He was a mayor at a time. He's got to be reelected. So I say to everyone out there, reelect Henry
I
Herns.
appreciate that. And can I reverse that and say I need my mayor back?
Yeah, I need my vice mayor back too.
All
With
right.
that, we thank you. Good
Thank
luck,
you very much.
gentlemen. Our prayers are with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
back to the Steve Fox Show, where it's you and the law. But tonight you have a grand opportunity to talk to Mayor Frank Roberts, a man I personally endorse. And if you have any questions, you can give Mayor Roberts a call at 726-0382. He's running for re-election on a platform of continuing the progress, to which I might add we've had a lot of positive progress ever since you've been there. It's like you never cease to find new things to improve upon.
Well, there's always something coming up that we need to do. Life's stream is such that you can't ever be through. You have to get better. And that's the way we feel in the city of Lancaster as far as the quality of life is concerned. We want it to always be getting better.
What are some of the things you're doing to increase more business in the area, which increases more jobs and hence gives more of us an opportunity?
City is very aggressively installing infrastructure in locations where manufacturers or developers or others can come in, bring jobs, and we can be ready for them so they don't have to wait and pause and spend a lot of money in preparing. The Foxfield Industrial Corridor is a case in point. We've just about filled our Lancaster Industrial Park, and I think we've been talking about that on other shows and in the paper, so you probably know about that. I think there's one little parcel left over the industrial park, so we've had to move, and what we've done is shifted to the north somewhat to the Foxfield Industrial Corridor. And there's a lot of problems with that, Steve. You have to put little pieces of land together because during the developmental years in the Antelope Valley, everybody bought a 40-acre piece of land. They split it into 20, and then they take the 20 and split it into 10, and they split it and sell it and resell it, and that's the way they made money. They called them land flippers. So now there are a lot of pieces of land out there, and if somebody comes in with a large industrial plan, then we have to go out and try to put those little pieces together.
Do you find the owners are sometimes absentee owners all over the county?
All over, and sometimes unavailable to us. Some of them are in foreign lands, and that really makes it difficult. But we have been pretty successful. The Rite Aid installation is a case in point, and certainly Michael's is good. The interesting problem we had when we were trying to re-establish the fair in the location where the 50th Agricultural District really wanted to be. We had to make certain that that land was available, and so it's a problem out there, but you have to do with what you have, and it's a good location for large industrial installations and things like warehousing and distribution centers and things of that nature. So we're working.
Since you've been mayor, can you calculate the thousands of jobs you've put in, or the dollars you brought into our city?
In terms of dollars come different ways. Jobs bring people, and then the people spend money in retail establishments in Palmdale as well as Lancaster, and that retail sales tax generates what we spend or what we're allowed to spend on our police protection. So that's the good part of it. Jobs bring people, people buy homes, people do things that are essential to the quality of life in a city. As far as how many jobs, I'm trying to put that together in my mind. It seemed to me like that over the past 3 or 4 years, we've generated of the order of about 4,500 new jobs.
That's pretty good.
With various places. Such things as the new countrywide home loans, they'll bring in 500 people. Deluxe check, that was an early one we put in. But you bring them in little bits and pieces. Starwoods, the company that takes reservations for many, many hotels around, they have a lot of people working for them. And by the way, these are quality jobs. One of our missions when I was first elected 10 years ago was to start to diversify. You know, this is an aerospace valley. Probably always will be aerospace valley by the nature of the quality of the skies and the area we have to test things in. It's a great place to fly. I have an airplane. I fly an airplane, as you know, licensed commercial pilot and all that. It's a marvelous place for aircraft, but if you watch the aircraft industry, and if you've watched it any number of years, and you've been here long enough to watch it perturbate, to the point where at times things will be good, times it'll be bad, times it'll be good.
So we need some other jobs and other things
Absolutely,
in there.
And that's called diversification. So we've been trying to diversify. Not on the back of, let's put it, on the back of the military or the defense kinds of construction, because those are high-paying, great jobs. They make use of the technical qualities of the people that we have here, our workforce, highly technically qualified. So we want to keep that going, but we want to diversify too, so that as these various elements go up and down, they mesh to the point where you have a more stable economic condition in the valley. That's what we're after.
I think that's a smart idea. And I believe we have a call.
Oh, good.
Attorney Steve Fox with Mayor Frank Roberts. What can we do for you?
How do you do, Mr. Fox? How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Oh, not too bad. I see both of you on TV there. You're dressed very well.
It's not my newest suit, but whatever.
I don't quite like the tie on Frank. However, I can see yours, Mr. Fox.
Oh, there. Here you go.
Get it out there. You can see.
Matches so well, I can't even tell that it's there. Very good.
Is that your criticism? My tie doesn't match well? I have to tell you, I went to a meeting today at the MTA, and most all of us try to wear ties that stand out when the press, like the Times, take pictures of us. So I guess that's the reason I wore this striking tie. I'm sorry if it offends you.
Oh, no. That's a very good thing to wear a sort of a tie that may attract a lot of attention, because then that takes their eyes off you.
That's right.
Very
That's
good,
right.
sir.
You have a very familiar voice. I believe I know who this is, but I won't say.
Thank you. Sir, Your Honor.
Oh, boy. Now we're getting... Okay, go ahead.
Well, you are the mayor,
Ah, that's true.
and this is before everyone. When privately, of course, I might say Mr. Frank.
Most people just call me Frank. And when I sign my email letters, I say Mayor Frank, because I believe that mayors should be down to the grassroots level. I don't believe that I should be a high-level honorary thing, because that's not the way local mayors behave. So go ahead.
Well, you're pretty high level.
Well.
Fox, quite a name himself.
Yes, he is.
Thank
Very
you.
respectable person. Okay, Mr. Mayor, if I would like to file petitions, and it's not important as to which regard, and coming to the City Hall, where would I probably go? Up there and see Shirley?
Well, it depends upon the nature of the petition. If it's a petition, say, relating to street sweeping signs or some such
My
thing.
goodness.
Huh?
I say, my goodness.
Isn't that amazing how, what would you call that? Well, we won't talk about it. But,
Psychic?
yeah, psychic. You would probably bring the petitions, you might bring them first to the Public Works Department, who pretty much handle those signs and the placement of the signs and the operation of the ordinances that dictate the policies related to the signs. But ultimately, you would bring them probably to the City Council, maybe through the mayor.
Well, that's understandable, except for one thing. You're talking about sheets of paper with typing on it. Where would I obtain such sheets of paper with such typing on it to be filled out by people that may sign?
Oh, wait a minute. You're thinking, we usually don't provide the petitions. The petitioner would make whatever style he wished to circulate on his own machine.
Let me add a few things. If you have some legal petition, actually the election
There you
code
go.
will specify how many lines, what pica size the type has to be, and any specifications you might need. And that's in the California codes on the election section.
This is a legal show, and Steve is the expert on that, so
I once
I'm interested in that
I was
too,
once
Steve.
forced to, due to a recall, read the entire elections code. So
Is that right?
there are sections on there on how to, what the requirements are, how many signatures you have, depending on the type of petition.
No, this doesn't have anything to do with election code. There's enough of that going on without my getting involved.
And the other type of petition, again, if I knew more, I could probably direct you a little bit whether.
Let me try it this way. Without mentioning any names or anything, might it look something like one that someone presented to you recently?
Oh, you're asking me?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
I receive a lot of petitions. In the last 4 days, I've received 2 from a gentleman, perhaps the gentleman that I'm talking to right now. And the petitions are adequate, because the petitions, they're not really a legal form. They're not the legal kind that our esteemed attorney beside me is talking about. They're not the kind that get filed for that kind of purpose. The petitions that you're talking about, I believe, are the kind that get the attention of the elected official. And then we proceed on the basis of the numbers of names we see and the strength of the argument presented.
Actually, I would need quite a few sheets of paper to be able to list the 800 to 1,000, so that would be a considerable amount of sheets and paperwork.
Well, I think a tablet with the appropriately titled top to it and lines, let people sign, put their names, and indicate by that way that they're interested in whatever you're proposing with your petition, and that ought to work.
The one I'm familiar with, and as you may be, had lines for 25 signatures.
Yes. Well, if you have 800, it's going to take a lot of sheets.
That's what I said.
32.
A sheet roll. Very good.
Well, it sounds like you have a popular issue and a lot of people in back of you.
No, that's the confounded idiot tube over in the other room. Everyone seems to have one or two or more of those in their abode. I see a slight smile on you, Mr. Fox, and that's very appreciative. It looks good. I see Mr. Frank there, or the mayor. He's
Mayor Frank.
smiling nicely, as I always see him smiling.
We wish you the best of luck, and we thank you for calling.
And I thank you again. I know.
You know, I commend you, Frank, that you'll have not only an open door to talk to people, not only can people email you, but it appears that you're very open when you receive petitions.
Oh, absolutely.
To take the will of the people and you know, we're their representative, not just once every couple of years, but on individual issues.
Well, you and I have both been through the recall process.
Yes.
And you accept those, and you work in a way to make certain that you're being as fair as you can with the petitioners. Some things are legal, some things are not legal. I've received petitions, not this gentleman's petitions, but I've received petitions that you couldn't do anything about because those items were not covered under municipal code or even didn't relate to City of Lancaster's dealings. It
We
was
have
more of a state.
constraints of the law
That's right.
what we're allowed to do and what we're not.
That's right. That's right.
And,
So you have to consider those things.
The thing to do is if someone has a problem, you find a way to get a resolution to it.
Right. I'll usually refer them, say it's a case for the federal, I'll refer them to my favorite Buck McKeon, Republican congressman, and he will give me some advice, or he'll put it in the hands of one of his workers, and we find out what we can do with those things. And they come out.
At the state level, we'll go to, say, hopefully
Mike
in the
Antonovich,
future,
well,
Sharon Runner,
Sharon
or hopefully
Runner,
in the
right.
future, or some other, and again, a county issue, you'd go to either Sherry or at
Yeah.
Mike Antonovich's
Right.
office.
Refer them to the proper agency.
And that's half the battle. Even a legal problem is finding the right attorney. If it's a city problem, it's finding the right department or the
That's
right
right.
person to give it to.
That's right.
And once you do that, things seem to take on a life of their own and solve themselves.
Yeah, you're right.
Just like at the hospital, we have an infinite amount of departments, anything from infectious control to the enlarged emergency room,
Right.
and we try to handle everything as best we can.
And that's all that anyone can ask. And they can help you by directing you and your board in terms of what will be better in the way of service to them, and that's what you'd like.
With that, we have another call.
Oh, good.
This is Attorney Steve Fox with Mayor Frank Roberts. What can we do for you?
Yes, I work down below, and I've noticed a lot of waste management trucks coming up to the local landfill, and just wonder what the deal is on that.
There was a time when there was a tipping fee involved, and they would bring things from other areas up into our landfills. I'm not sure that that's going on any longer, so I'd have to look into that, but that's a good question.
If you would, because I just coming home tonight, and this has been for the last week, I counted 14 of the big trucks from coming down below, and the other day I counted about 9 trucks over at the landfill.
Were they on 14, SR 14?
Yes.
Why don't you call me when you get a chance? I'll give you a number, 723-6018. I'll either 723-6018.
723.
6018.
Okay.
And I'll put you in touch with someone that will know about that. Let me say that Waste Management, their landfill is not really on Lancaster property. So we have certain problems at times with that landfill because we don't control it. But on the other hand, we should know what's going on with it, and I apologize for not knowing. But to my knowledge, they did not or have not hauled from out of the region for quite a while. Now, they could have a problem. And I also sit on the sanitation district, Los Angeles County Sanitation Board. There are some reconfigurations going on in some of those landfills in the south. At times, there will be an occasion where, because the landfill controlled by the sanitation district is being reconfigured, they might bring some of that up to us. But I don't know that, but I'll find out if you'll call me tomorrow.
I'll do that.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, Mayor.
You bet.
Thank you. It's a great way to handle problems, and I got to commend you on that. Our CEO has at the hospital, Matthew Abraham, gets 50 or so emails a day too, and he
Yeah.
responds just like you do.
You have to.
Every single one.
They pile up on you if you don't answer them every day.
And that's half the battle is communication.
Yes, it is.
Now, I've noticed some good things the city is doing. What are some of our long-term goals that you're planning for us?
The longest term goal was alluded to us in terms of the water problem. Now, we're dumping an awful lot of water on Rosamond Dry Lake, and that's against the wishes of the military operation. General Peterson and I are concerned about that. Our long-range goal, and this is quite a long-range goal, it's at least 5 years in the making. We'd like to recycle that water, bring it to beautification of the freeways. And what's happened is that when I got elected to the Metropolitan Transit Authority, was 3 years ago now, and then I just enjoy a new re-election. I'm now on for 4 more years. But at any rate, that particular assignment, I brought up the CEO from the Metropolitan Transit Authority. And some people may wonder about the Los Angeles Metropolitan Transit Authority and how it affects us at all, but we are Los Angeles County, and the Metropolitan Transit Authority handles a lot of the road funding. We work with Caltrans. Caltrans cooperates in a partnership. So at any rate, this CEO came up, and what he said to me after his visit here was, gee, your freeway banks, when you go down into the freeway after you leave Palmdale, they're ugly. And I said, oh, I hadn't really thought about it because I'm used to the desert and the natural flora and fauna of the desert. And he said, well, have you thought about putting in an application for federal money with state matching and of course local to try to beautify those freeway banks? Well, there was one little problem, and guess what it was? You can put in all kinds of nice growth on those, but what do you do about the water? That's when I thought, let's couple this together. Let's try to recycle the water, like the model that's going on at Edwards right now, where they're recycling above the tertiary process to the point where they're watering their golf courses, they're watering their median strips with the water that's the wastewater normally. And we put those two together, and I've started working with the Los Angeles County now. One of my long-range goals is to get that water recycled so that we can water, like we do Apollo Park, the grass, the median strips, the parks. We can water even our stadium, which you say you like so much. We can water and beautify those freeway banks. And you know what? We're going to get $5 million to start that process, thanks to my operation on the Metropolitan Transit Authority.
So you're bringing dollars into our city as well.
I brought of the order of $70 million in the last 2 years while I've been down there.
What are some of the projects you brought in for that $70 million?
Well, we've funded the Avenue H overpass. Let's talk about the most recent one. Mm-hmm. The Avenue H overpass. The Avenue L overpass, which was the one just prior to that, that money came from our operation with the Metropolitan Transit Authority, with the federal and the state funds, with Prop A, Prop C tax monies all going together. But I have the proud announcement to make that most of that came about as a result of my voting on the Metropolitan Transit Authority. And I sit with the supervisors of the county. There's 5 of those. There's 4 from the mayor's office of Los Angeles, Mayor Hahn and his 3 representatives, and then 4 of us that are elected by the 88 cities, and I'm one of the ones elected by the 88 cities of Southern California. So I've been able to influence their thinking. And it's kind of funny. Before I was elected there, their representatives were often from the San Fernando Valley area. The last one was Larry Zarian, a great man from Burbank. And when I got elected, all of a sudden they said, where is Lancaster, where is Palmdale, where's Santa Clarita? And I represent 12 of these cities, and all 88 actually. But now they know that when I come into the room, they say, oh, there's the guy from the northernmost outpost in Los Angeles County. Because I am. Lancaster is the northernmost outpost, but I have the pride of being able to represent all of us and bring money to us. All that happened was that they didn't realize there was anything north of the San Gabriel Mountains until I got on the board.
Well, I'm glad you sensitized them to several 100,000 people.
That's what we did.
In
We're
fact,
going to be 500,000 real soon, and not too long after that. I hope it doesn't happen quickly, but the 1.4 that SCAG is predicting, I think unless we're carefully planning our future, that 1.4 million people is really going to be a problem.
That's in the Antelope Valley?
Yeah, it includes part of the East Kern region.
When do they project those numbers are going to occur?
Less than 15 years.
So we're going to almost triple our population?
That's what they're saying. Now, they've been wrong before, Steve. You know, I've served on the Board of Trade for 37 years, and I can tell you that there was a time when we were planning the Palmdale Airport where people thought that this would be in the millions now. So it always takes a little longer than they project. But
well, the thing I noticed on the demographics of our area is there's a lot of young families too.
Yes.
Which means a good percentage of that 1.4 million is going to be kids and young families.
Yeah, sure. They're coming from the local production of children, let's face it. Not all just moving here.
It's not just your infrastructure, it's at the hospital we have to
do that
keep
too.
enlarging our emergency room, which we constantly try to do. I don't know if you've heard there's a nursing shortage too.
I heard that.
And so just like you, we have to prepare.
Right, and plan.
Only you seem to have done an excellent job.
Well, I think
And,
you guys are doing the same
we do
kind
our
of job.
best.
You're planning too. You have to worry about it.
We have to. You're right. And it's interesting. I don't know if you realize the hospital doesn't tax at all.
I know you're not non-taxing. That's amazing.
So we survive on a budget.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And we generate our own funds.
Yes.
But we're actually very thankful for the support you've given the hospital in the past.
Well,
And I think your support of the healthcare in our valley.
in the continuation of the actual police protection, on down here is health protection and provision of health for the people you bring in. You know, if we're going to bring in people that are going to build in our Foxfield industrial corridor, one of the questions we're going to say is, what kind of health care do you have? Well, so far we can say great health care right out there at that hospital.
We have over 300 doctors, approximately 2,000 employees. We're one of the largest Antelope Valley Hospital employers in the valley. We keep trying to keep up with the wages, and again, we do it by good contracting and cutting corners, but not cutting quality of health. And that's what we try to do.
And you know you have the full cooperation of the city of Lancaster and the city of Palmdale too, because you're their hospital as well.
You're right. Disease doesn't have an address,
Yeah, it
and
has no address.
we represent the entire valley, both
right.
cities. And it takes, like they say, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes 2 cities to work with our hospital.
Yes, indeed. Love that. Good statement.
To doing our best. Now, Frank, do you have any other positive things you want to tell people? Remind them to get out to vote in the
Yes.
upcoming election?
Maybe a comment about, I continually notice in the Valley Press, one of our local newspapers, Daily News has mentioned this too, that at the last election there was not a great voter turnout. Well, if people will think back at the last election, there really was no opposition there. I didn't have a person, he was a candidate all right, but he did not have high visibility. Then the other 2 councilmen that were reelected, they had no opposition at all. So you can understand why people didn't get out to vote. I think this election, because there are some candidates, and you need to look at the candidates, evaluate them, see what you think, and come out and vote this time. I'd like to see a good, healthy vote.
Well, again, it's our democratic right, and I think the one way we show it is by voting.
Yes, indeed.
And it's
Get out and vote.
and I would like to see a bigger turnout too. And again, I think the reason in the past a lot of people haven't run is you've done such a good job and you're still doing it, but and so you may not have the competition, and it's a compliment
Well,
to you.
But you have to think about this. An election is a form of an evaluation process.
It's your report card.
So
sure.
every 2 years, we change to an elected mayor. I'm one of the few elected mayors in the county of Los Angeles because most of them are rotated through the councilmanic chairs. But the point is, every couple of years, you evaluate your mayor, and you need to come vote and say, if you like what I'm doing, you vote for me. If you don't like it, you look at one of the other candidates. I'd like to have you vote for me because I'd like to continue to try to do what you want, and that's my main mission. I believe that I live Lancaster. My life is devoted to the city of Lancaster, and I'd like to continue to do that, but as you see fit. But please get out and vote.
And I would concur with that. And again, on the ballot, we have a few other things coming up. We have state assembly,
Right.
our own
But
chairman.
that's in
runners running.
before our election is on April 9th, and that one is March 6th.
Something like that.
Something
we
like
have
that, yeah.
we have judges. We have
Yes.
Richard Naran, who's one of our local district attorneys, running.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of local people even running for some of the countywide
Right.
positions.
Get out and vote for those people.
And it's important that they know that we support them.
Absolutely.
And if they're in, obviously, they're going to look towards ensuring that our valley gets the best services and the best representation. In addition, I know that there's other city council spots open.
Yes.
Besides Reverend Vice Mayor Herns, you have
Yeah.
Ed Cilio.
Well, our Michelle Eidelman chose not to continue, so that left an open slot, and that has attracted, I believe, 4 others and Henry Herns to run for the one open slot, and of course Henry has to be reelected. So yes, and you need to look at those candidates as well. I personally like one of them because he has worked at the city as a planning commissioner for years and years, and he's been the chairman of the planning commission for the last 3 terms. I especially like Ed Cilio, but that's my personal preference. You need to form your own opinion. But Henry and I are backing Ed Cilio in this campaign because we believe he would make a great councilman.
How many years has he been on the planning commission? 12 or what is it?
I think he's been there at least 4 terms, 3 terms, yeah, probably 12 years. Yeah.
So he's helped you with the long-term planning as
Yes,
well.
he has. He's been a good planning
So
commissioner.
he'll be able to hit the ground running as opposed to a catch-up.
That's Henry's and my feelings. Yeah. Yeah.
And I would concur with you. Now, why don't you give your phone number one or two more times here for anybody who wants to
Okay.
call you at City Hall? And I like your open door policy. I have to tell you, it's a refreshing change.
I think every council person there has that same policy. If you call us at City Hall, and 723-6018 will either come directly to me or go through a secretary. And if I'm not there, Henry would be there. He could take the call. But we're available. On the internet, I'm at F Roberts, it's little f, and of course lowercase all the way, F Roberts at qnet.com. And I do get a lot of email messages. I try to answer them. Sometimes it takes a few days when I get 30 or 40 at a time. The truth of the matter is I get a lot from Los Angeles for MTA too. They want me to vote for buses and do other things. But those I handle very quickly, and then I spend the greater amount of time on the Lancaster things.
And how does the MTA affect our out here?
The MTA, if we didn't have a representative, as I am, you would find that they would try to suck the money up that comes in from your gas taxes and your other things into the Los Angeles area.
And
And
that's
obviously they deserve a lot of it because they have the major bulk of the population. There's
We-
3.6 million down
But
there.
by you being there, we've gotten our fair share.
I'm sure we have, and I'm trying to get more than our fair share if I can. Now, don't repeat that. The more I can get. I've done a great job. Palmdale has profited by me being their representative. Santa Clarita, our close neighbor, I really love the people at Santa Clarita. We've opened up Metrolink parking locations. We've opened up overhead pass viaducts and overpasses. And, of course, Burbank and Glendale are also my two cities, as well as Malibu. How about that? Malibu. I even represent Malibu, and on the other end, Flint Ridge, La Cañada. So I have all the cities. San Fernando is another one.
Do you have any last words to remind people to get out the vote?
Well, if you get out to vote and can't remember anything else, remember Frank Roberts, your mayor, and he wants to continue, and please vote for Frank Roberts.
Frank, you have my endorsement, and I really appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you.
Steve, thank you.
Good night, and God bless.